Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they quit the moment life becomes uncomfortable. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is rarely intelligence. It is endurance. The people you admire simply stayed in the fight longer than everyone else. They carried heavier burdens. They accepted more rejection. They worked through more boredom, more loneliness, more uncertainty, and more pain. This audiobook will teach you one principle that changes everything. If you can endure more than others, you can achieve more than others. The question isn't whether life will test you. The question is whether you will still be standing when everyone else walks away. Chapter 2. Stay longer than everyone else. There is one truth that almost nobody wants to hear. Success is often less about who starts the strongest and more about who refuses to stop. People love dramatic stories about overnight success. They admire natural talent. They celebrate extraordinary intelligence. They assume that the winners were simply born different. But if you study enough successful people, you begin to notice another pattern. Many of them were not the fastest. Many were not the smartest. Many were not even the most gifted. They simply stayed. When everyone else became discouraged, they continued. When everyone else grew impatient, they kept working. When everyone else searched for a new opportunity, they improved the one already in front of them. That is the advantage most people ignore. Outlast the competition. That's the key. The greatest competition in life is not against another person. It is against time. Time exposes everyone. Time reveals who is serious. Time separates commitment from excitement. Anyone can work hard for 1 week. Many can stay motivated for 1 month. Some can remain disciplined for 1 year. Very few continue when nobody is watching anymore. Very few continue after the applause disappears. Very few continue after failure becomes repetitive. That is why extraordinary success is so rare. Not because opportunity is rare, because endurance is rare. You have a choice. You can become another person constantly starting over, or you can become someone who finishes. Those identities create completely different futures. Every year, millions of people begin new goals. They buy the equipment. They purchase the courses. They announce the plans. They promise themselves that this time will be different. Then life becomes inconvenient. The excitement fades. Progress slows. Results refuse to appear. And quietly, without making any announcement, they stop. Nobody forced them to quit. Impatience did. Discouragement did. Comfort did. Meanwhile, someone else keeps going. Not because they enjoy every moment, because they understand something most people never learn. Outlast the competition. Imagine 2 people planting identical trees. The first person waters the tree for 3 months, sees little progress, becomes frustrated, and walks away. The second person waters the tree every day for years. At first, their effort looks identical. Then, one day, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. The tree finally rises above the ground. People call it sudden success. It wasn't sudden. It was accumulated patience. Life works the same way. Results often arrive long after effort begins. That delay discourages impatient people. But it rewards those who remain. Time rewards endurance. That's the key. Look at the world of business. Thousands of companies disappear every year. Most do not fail because the founders lacked intelligence. Many fail because they expected immediate success. When profits arrived slowly, they abandoned the mission. When customers took time to trust them, they changed direction. When obstacles appeared, they assumed they had chosen the wrong path. Meanwhile, another entrepreneur continued solving problems every day, Small improvements, better products, better communication, better service. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, just steady progress. 5 years later, one business no longer exists. The other dominates its market. People say the second founder was lucky. They rarely mention the thousands of ordinary days that created that luck. Outlast the competition. The same lesson appears in sports. Natural talent wins attention. Discipline wins championships. Every season begins with gifted athletes. Only a few remain after years of relentless training. The athlete who keeps practicing after losing. The athlete who trains during the off-season. The athlete who returns after injury. The athlete who accepts criticism instead of making excuses. Those are the athletes who keep improving while others slowly disappear. Talent starts the race. Endurance finishes it. Remember that. Creative careers follow exactly the same pattern. A writer finishes one manuscript. It gets rejected. Then another rejection. And another. Many decide they simply are not talented enough. They stop writing. Someone else receives the same rejection. They write another book. Then another. Then another. Years later, readers discover their work and assume genius appeared overnight. They never saw the hundreds of mornings spent writing without recognition. The same is true for musicians, artists, filmmakers, designers, content creators. Every masterpiece usually stands on top of thousands of unseen hours. The audience sees the performance. They never see the repetitions. They never see the failures. They never see the years when nobody cared. Success belongs to those who remain after the audience leaves. Outlast the competition. It is easy to underestimate the power of consistency because daily improvement looks almost invisible. One workout changes very little. One page read changes very little. One honest conversation changes very little. One extra hour of focused work changes very little. But these actions never stay alone. They multiply. They compound. They connect with yesterday's effort and tomorrow's effort. Eventually, the gap becomes enormous. Consistency compounds while impatience destroys opportunity. That sentence deserves your attention. Impatience is expensive. It convinces people to abandon investments just before they grow. It convinces people to quit relationships before trust deepens. It convinces people to leave careers before experience becomes valuable. It convinces people to change direction every time progress slows. Constant restarting creates the illusion of movement, but it prevents mastery. Mastery belongs to those who stay. Think about learning a language. The first months feel painfully slow. Vocabulary disappears. Grammar feels confusing. Progress seems invisible. Many quit. Someone else studies for another year. Then another. Eventually, speaking becomes natural. The difference was never intelligence. The difference was time. Time rewards endurance. You have a choice. Every difficult season asks the same question. Will you continue? Not because continuing feels exciting, because continuing is who you are. That is identity. Successful people stop asking, "How long will this take?" Instead, they ask, "What must I do today?" They stop negotiating with the future. They focus on today's responsibility, today's workout, today's chapter, today's practice, today's improvement. Nothing more, nothing less. Ironically, this mindset allows extraordinary results to appear. Because extraordinary results are simply ordinary actions repeated for extraordinary lengths of time. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a month. They underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. That misunderstanding causes countless dreams to die. Stay one more day. Repeat those words whenever frustration appears. When your business feels slow, stay one more day. When nobody notices your effort, stay one more day. When improvement feels invisible, stay one more day. When your confidence begins to disappear, stay one more day. Those extra days become extra weeks. Extra weeks become extra months. Extra months become extra years. Eventually, people look at your success and wonder how you became so far ahead. The answer is surprisingly simple. You never stopped showing up. Every extra day creates an advantage invisible in the beginning. Most people cannot see compound growth because compound growth hides itself until enough time has passed. Like water slowly carving through stone, like a tree slowly reaching the sky, like sunrise quietly replacing darkness. Progress is happening even when you cannot measure it. Trust the process. Trust the repetition. Trust time. Outlast the competition. One day, you will realize something extraordinary. The competition you feared no longer exists, not because you defeated everyone directly, because they defeated themselves by leaving too soon. Their greatest obstacle was never lack of talent. It was lack of endurance. Do not make the same mistake. Measure success differently. Do not ask whether today produced spectacular results. Ask whether today strengthened your commitment. Do not ask whether recognition arrived. Ask whether you honored your standards. Do not ask whether the journey became easier. Ask whether you became stronger. Stay one more day. That single decision, repeated often enough, becomes a lifetime of achievement. You have learned that lasting success belongs to those who refuse to leave the arena. But endurance is tested most when life hurts. To stay longer than everyone else, you must also learn to transform suffering into strength instead of allowing it to become an excuse. Chapter 3. Make pain your teacher. Pain is one of the greatest teachers you will ever meet. The tragedy is that most people never stay in the classroom long enough to learn. The moment pain arrives, they run. They distract themselves. They blame someone else. They numb their emotions. They search for comfort. They convince themselves that suffering is proof they are on the wrong path. But what if the opposite is true? What if pain is not always a warning to stop? What if pain is an invitation to grow? That single shift in perspective can change your entire life. Pain points toward progress. Remember those words. Pain points toward progress. That doesn't mean every painful experience is good. It means every painful experience contains information. Physical pain tells you something about your body. Emotional pain tells you something about your mind. Failure tells you where your preparation was incomplete. Rejection tells you where your expectations need adjustment. Criticism tells you where improvement might be possible. Disappointment tells you where reality failed to match imagination. Pain speaks. The question is whether you're willing to listen. You have a choice. You can spend your energy asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Or you can ask a far more powerful question. What is this trying to teach me? That's the key. Most people fear pain because they confuse it with permanent defeat. But pain is temporary. The lesson can last forever. Imagine touching a hot stove. The pain is immediate, unpleasant, sharp. Yet without that pain, you would continue damaging your hand. Pain protected you. Emotional pain often serves the same purpose. It exposes weaknesses that comfort keeps hidden. It reveals unhealthy habits, poor decisions, fragile beliefs, unrealistic expectations, unhealed wounds. things you would never notice if life remained easy. Pain points toward progress. The strongest people are not those who avoid pain. They are the ones who learn from it. Think back to the most difficult season of your life. Perhaps you lost someone you loved. Perhaps you failed at something that mattered deeply. Perhaps your heart was broken. Perhaps you were betrayed. Perhaps your dream collapsed after years of effort. At the time, you probably wanted only one thing: for the pain to disappear. But look carefully. Who did that experience force you to become? Did it teach you patience? Did it teach you humility? Did it teach you resilience? Did it teach you discernment? Did it reveal strength you never knew you possessed? Many of life's greatest lessons arrive wearing the disguise of suffering. You would never volunteer for those experiences. Yet afterward, you realize they changed you forever. Wisdom is often purchased through suffering. No one likes hearing that. But history repeats it endlessly. Consider failure. Most people treat failure as evidence that they should stop. Successful people treat failure as evidence that they should adjust. The difference is enormous. One person sees a closed door. Another sees valuable information. The first person quits. The second person improves. Failure itself is neutral. Your response gives it meaning. Thomas Edison reportedly tested thousands of materials before creating a practical light bulb. Elite athletes lose championships before winning them. Businesses collapse before future companies succeed. Inventors spend years solving problems that refuse to cooperate. Scientists perform experiments that fail repeatedly. If they interpreted every setback as a final answer, nothing remarkable would ever exist. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Pain points toward progress. Criticism is another form of pain that many people misunderstand. Nobody enjoys hearing negative opinions. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself, to argue, to dismiss the other person. Sometimes criticism is unfair. Sometimes it comes from jealousy or insecurity. But not always. Sometimes your critics reveal something your friends are too polite to mention. That doesn't mean every criticism deserves your attention. It means every criticism deserves your evaluation. Separate the emotion from the information. Ask yourself, is there something useful here? If yes, improve. If no, move on. Do not allow your ego to reject a lesson simply because it arrived in an uncomfortable package. You don't need their permission. You only need the courage to become better. Heartbreak teaches lessons that comfort never can. When trust is broken, you begin to understand the importance of character. When love disappears, you begin to understand the value of emotional maturity. When loneliness arrives, you begin to discover who you are without constant validation. These lessons are painful, but they are also transformative. Some people become bitter after heartbreak. Others become wiser. The event may be similar. The interpretation changes everything. Rejection follows the same principle. Every successful person has been rejected. Authors receive rejection letters. Actors lose auditions. Entrepreneurs hear no hundreds of times. Athletes are cut from teams. Professionals are denied promotions. The difference is not that successful people avoid rejection. The difference is that they refuse to let rejection define their identity. Rejection says one opportunity did not work. It does not say your future is over. That's the key. There are always two responses to pain: escape or education. The person who escapes asks, "How can I avoid feeling this again?" The person who learns asks, "How can I become stronger because of this?" Those two questions produce completely different lives. One creates fear. The other creates growth. Pain points toward progress. Disappointment may be the most underrated teacher of all. Disappointment destroys illusions. It forces you to face reality instead of fantasy. Perhaps you believed success would happen quickly. It didn't. Perhaps you believed people would always be loyal. They weren't. Perhaps you believed talent alone would be enough. It wasn't. Reality can hurt. But reality also liberates. Because once you see the truth, you can finally build on something solid. False hope feels comfortable. Truth creates strength. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about using pain. Reflect instead of react. This habit alone can transform your future. When something painful happens, resist the urge to make immediate decisions. Do not quit in anger. Do not speak in frustration. Do not abandon your purpose because emotions are temporarily loud. Pause, breathe, observe, ask better questions. What happened? Why did it happen? What was under my control? What wasn't? What must change? Reflection converts pain into wisdom. Reaction often multiplies suffering. That is why emotionally mature people grow faster. They spend less time complaining and more time learning. Every setback becomes research. Every mistake becomes instruction. Every difficult season becomes preparation. Don't waste your suffering. Repeat that. Don't waste your suffering. If you're going to endure pain, make sure it leaves you stronger than it found you. Do not pay the price without collecting the lesson. There is no honor in suffering without growth. There is tremendous power in transforming suffering into character. Years from now, someone may ask how you became so resilient. They will admire your calm, your confidence, your wisdom, your discipline. What they will not immediately see is the pain that shaped each one of those qualities. Strength has a history. Confidence has scars. Wisdom has memories. Resilience has endured storms. Every painful lesson becomes future strength. One day, the experience that almost broke you may become the reason someone else refuses to give up. Your scars may become someone else's map. That is how pain becomes purpose. Don't waste your suffering. Remember, endurance is not simply surviving difficult moments. Endurance is allowing difficult moments to build a stronger version of you. Every lesson learned through pain becomes another reason you can keep moving while others stop. You now understand that pain is not an enemy to escape, but a teacher to respect. The next step is even more powerful. Once you stop fearing pain, you can begin training yourself to welcome the discomfort that creates extraordinary growth. Chapter 4. Become comfortable. Being uncomfortable. Most people spend their lives trying to eliminate discomfort. The strongest people spend their lives increasing their capacity to handle it. That is one of the greatest differences between an average life and an extraordinary one. Average people ask, "How can I make this easier?" Resilient people ask, "How can I become stronger?" Those are completely different questions. One changes your environment. The other changes you. And changing yourself is always the greater victory. You have a choice. You can spend your life searching for comfortable circumstances, or you can become the kind of person who remains effective under uncomfortable circumstances. That's the key. Life will never promise comfort, but it will always reward capability. Resilience is not born in peaceful moments. It is built in difficult ones. You do not become mentally strong by reading about courage. You become mentally strong by practicing courage. Again and again. You do not become patient because life is easy. You become patient because life repeatedly tests your patience. You do not become calm because pressure disappears. You become calm because you have survived pressure often enough that it no longer controls you. Confidence follows endurance. Remember those words. Confidence follows endurance. Many people wait until they feel confident before taking action. That is backwards. Confidence is rarely the starting point. It is almost always the reward. A child does not feel confident before learning to walk. They fall. They stumble. They lose balance. Then they try again. Eventually, walking becomes automatic. Adults often forget this lesson. They expect immediate confidence when attempting something new. When it doesn't appear, they assume they are not capable. The truth is much simpler. They have not practiced long enough. Confidence follows endurance. Think about the first time you drove a car. Every movement demanded your attention. The mirrors, the pedals, the steering wheel, traffic, speed. Everything felt overwhelming. Now you probably complete those same actions without conscious effort. What changed? Not the road, not the vehicle. You changed. Repeated exposure transformed anxiety into familiarity. That is how adaptation works. The unfamiliar becomes familiar through repetition. The difficult becomes manageable through exposure. The impossible becomes ordinary through persistence. That principle applies to every area of life. Public speaking terrifies millions of people. The first speech feels uncomfortable. Your heart races. Your hands shake. Your voice trembles. Your thoughts scatter. Many people interpret these feelings as proof they should never speak again. But experienced speakers know something different. The discomfort is temporary. The practice is permanent. Every speech reduces the fear a little more. Every audience teaches another lesson. Every presentation builds another layer of confidence. Eventually, standing in front of hundreds of people feels as ordinary as having a conversation with one friend. Not because fear disappeared overnight, because repeated exposure changed the brain. Confidence follows endurance. The same lesson appears in difficult conversations. Most people avoid conflict. They postpone uncomfortable discussions. They hope problems solve themselves. Rarely do they. Avoided conversations usually become larger problems. Misunderstandings grow. Resentment builds. Trust weakens. Eventually, one conversation becomes 10 times harder because it was delayed. Courageous people understand this. They do not enjoy difficult conversations. They simply understand that temporary discomfort prevents long-term suffering. Every honest conversation strengthens emotional resilience. Every avoided conversation strengthens fear. You have a choice. Learning a new skill follows exactly the same pattern. Whether you're learning a language, playing an instrument, starting a business, developing leadership, or mastering a profession. The beginning always feels awkward. Slow progress, frequent mistakes, constant frustration. That stage discourages most people. They compare themselves to experts. They feel embarrassed. They decide they simply are not talented enough. Then they quit. Someone else stays. One more lesson. One more practice session. One more attempt. Months later, improvement becomes visible. Years later, mastery appears. The difference was never talent alone. It was endurance. That's the key. Your brain is designed to adapt. Scientists call it neuroplasticity. Your mind constantly rewires itself based on repeated experience. Every time you face discomfort instead of escaping it, you teach your brain something important. This situation is survivable. The next encounter becomes slightly easier, then easier again, then easier again, until what once frightened you barely affects you at all. Think about firefighters. emergency physicians, military personnel, airline pilots, professional athletes. None of them begin their careers comfortable under pressure. They become comfortable because pressure becomes familiar. Repeated exposure changes their response. The situation may still be difficult, but they are no longer overwhelmed by it. They have trained their minds to function inside discomfort. You can do the same. It's not about fear, it's about familiarity. Run from discomfort, and fear grows stronger. Face discomfort repeatedly, and fear grows weaker. This is why your daily choices matter. Every challenge you avoid becomes larger in your imagination. Every challenge you face becomes smaller in reality. That is how resilience is built. Not through dramatic moments, through ordinary repetitions. Wake up when you promised. Finish difficult tasks. Exercise when you don't feel like it. Speak honestly when silence would be easier. Read when entertainment is more tempting. Practice after enthusiasm disappears. Each action whispers the same message to your brain. I can handle hard things. Eventually, that whisper becomes an identity. Confidence follows endurance. There comes a point where discomfort stops feeling like an interruption. It becomes part of your lifestyle. You stop expecting every day to be easy. You stop becoming surprised by obstacles. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you ask, "How will I respond?" That question changes everything. Because resilient people expect resistance. They understand that every meaningful goal will demand sacrifice. Every worthwhile relationship will require forgiveness. Every successful career will involve uncertainty. Every meaningful dream will encounter setbacks. Difficulty is not an exception. Difficulty is part of the process. Once you accept that truth, frustration loses much of its power. You stop resisting reality. You begin working with it. Build a life where challenges are expected. Choose projects that stretch your abilities. Volunteer for responsibility. Read books that challenge your thinking. Learn skills that make you feel like a beginner. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to grow instead of people who encourage complacency. Seek experiences that require courage, not because discomfort is enjoyable, because growth lives there. Comfort zones are strange places. They feel safe, but they slowly become prisons. The longer you remain inside them, the smaller your world becomes. Your confidence shrinks. Your curiosity fades. Your courage weakens. The walls become invisible, but they are still there. Freedom begins the moment you step outside. At first, everything feels uncertain, then exciting, then normal. This is adaptation. The uncomfortable eventually becomes familiar. That promotion you once feared becomes your daily responsibility. The workout that once exhausted you becomes your warm-up. The difficult conversation that once terrified you becomes a routine act of honesty. The business challenge that once kept you awake becomes another problem you know how to solve. Growth changes your definition of normal. That is why resilient people never stop growing. Every time discomfort becomes familiar, they choose a new challenge, not because they are never satisfied, because they understand that life rewards continuous expansion. This is who I am now. Repeat those words. This is who I am now. I am someone who does difficult things. I am someone who keeps showing up. I am someone who does not panic under pressure. I am someone who grows through challenge instead of hiding from it. Identity is built through repetition. Every difficult choice becomes another vote for the person you are becoming. One day, someone will look at your calmness and assume you were born confident. They will admire your composure under pressure. They will wonder why difficult situations never seem to shake you. They will not see the countless uncomfortable moments that built your resilience. They will not see the mornings you wanted to quit, the conversations you forced yourself to have, the failures you refused to let define you, the fears you walked toward instead of away from. That is the hidden story behind every resilient person. Confidence follows endurance. Never forget that. The goal is not to eliminate discomfort. The goal is to become the kind of person who no longer depends on comfort. When that happens, life changes, because nothing outside of you controls whether you continue. This is who I am now. You have learned to stop fearing discomfort and to let repeated exposure reshape your mind. But resilience alone is not enough. The people who achieve extraordinary lives also understand one more principle. They stop chasing quick rewards and begin playing a much longer game. Chapter 5. Master the long game. One of the greatest mistakes people make is expecting life to reward them immediately. They want immediate results, immediate recognition, immediate success, immediate proof that their effort is working. When those rewards fail to appear, they begin to doubt themselves. They question the plan. They question their abilities. Sometimes they even question whether the dream is worth pursuing. Then they quit. Not because they were incapable, because they expected tomorrow to deliver what only years can produce. That is the tragedy of short-term thinking. It destroys long-term success before long-term success has the chance to arrive. You have a choice. You can measure your life one day at a time, or you can build it 1 year at a time. Those two perspectives create completely different futures. Think in years, not days. That's the key. Nature understands this principle better than most people. A farmer does not plant seeds in the morning and expect a harvest by evening. An oak tree does not become massive in a single season. A river does not carve through stone in one afternoon. Everything valuable develops through time. Yet somehow, when it comes to our own lives, we become impatient. We work for 2 weeks and expect transformation. We exercise for 1 month and expect perfect health. We study for 1 semester and expect mastery. We save money for a few months and expect financial freedom. Life rarely works that way. The greatest rewards almost always arrive later than you expect. That delay is not punishment. It is preparation. Think in years, not days. People who understand this stop asking, "How fast can I succeed?" Instead, they ask, "Who must I become over the next 5 years?" Notice the difference. The first question is obsessed with speed. The second question is focused on transformation. Transformation lasts. Speed alone does not. It's not about impatience, it's about endurance. That's the key. Look at the world of investing. Imagine 2 people begin with the same amount of money. The first person wants immediate returns. Every market fluctuation creates anxiety. They constantly buy, constantly sell, constantly chase the next opportunity. They mistake activity for progress. The second person invests steadily, patiently, consistently. They understand that wealth grows through compound interest, not emotional decisions. Years pass. The patient investor quietly moves ahead, not because they found a secret, because they respected time. Compounding rewards those who remain. Life follows the same principle. Every wise decision earns interest. Every disciplined habit accumulates value. Every act of consistency builds momentum. The results may be invisible today, but they are never wasted. Education teaches the same lesson. No one becomes an expert after reading 1 book. No one masters a profession after attending 1 class. Knowledge grows one lesson at a time, one chapter, one conversation, one mistake, one correction. Most learning feels invisible while it is happening. Then one day, people begin asking for your advice. They assume you're naturally intelligent. They never saw the years spent studying when nobody was watching. Mastery hides inside repetition. Time eventually reveals it. Think in years, not days. Fitness offers another perfect example. Walk into a gym for the first time. Lift weights for 1 week. Look into the mirror. Almost nothing has changed. An impatient person becomes discouraged. This isn't working. They stop. Another person continues. Weeks become months. Months become years. Strength grows. Health improves. Confidence rises. Eventually, the transformation appears dramatic. But it was never created in one remarkable workout. It was built through thousands of ordinary repetitions. The body rewards consistency. The mind does too. Relationships demand the same patience. Trust is never built overnight. Respect cannot be rushed. Loyalty develops through repeated actions over time. One honest conversation rarely changes everything. One thoughtful gesture rarely defines a relationship, but hundreds of honest conversations, hundreds of reliable actions, hundreds of moments when you choose integrity over convenience, those create unshakable trust. The strongest relationships are not built through grand moments. They are built through ordinary consistency. Time rewards what remains consistent. That is why endurance beats urgency. Urgency wants everything immediately. Endurance understands that lasting success has its own timetable. Urgency becomes frustrated by slow progress. Endurance remains faithful to the process. Urgency changes direction every few weeks. Endurance quietly keeps walking the same path. Who do you think eventually arrives? The answer is obvious. Outcomes belong to those who remain. There is another danger hidden inside short-term thinking. It causes people to abandon good strategies simply because they have not worked yet. Notice that word. Yet. That single word changes everything. The results have not appeared. Yet. The business has not grown. Yet. The skill has not developed. Yet. The opportunity has not arrived. Yet. Yet leaves room for time to do its work. Never underestimate the power of that word. Every meaningful achievement passes through an invisible season, a season where effort appears greater than reward, where sacrifice seems larger than progress, where discipline feels unnoticed. Many people mistake this invisible season for failure. It is not failure. It is accumulation. Every action is being stored. Every lesson is being added. Every improvement is strengthening your foundation. You simply cannot see the full picture yet. Think in years, not days. Imagine building a stone cathedral. The workers who laid the first stones knew they might never see the finished building. Still, they worked with excellence. Why? Because they believed in something larger than immediate satisfaction. Modern culture struggles with this idea. People want instant delivery, instant entertainment, instant answers, instant recognition. But character refuses to be built instantly. Wisdom refuses to appear instantly. Resilience refuses to grow instantly. The greatest parts of your identity cannot be rushed. You have a choice. You can continue demanding immediate proof, or you can become the type of person who works faithfully without needing constant evidence. That is maturity. That is discipline. That is endurance. Trust the process. Those 4 words have carried countless successful people through difficult seasons, not because the process always feels enjoyable, Because the process is often the only thing you can control. You cannot control exactly when success arrives. You cannot control how quickly others recognize your work. You cannot control every opportunity. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control luck. But you can control today's effort, today's discipline, today's preparation, today's integrity, today's patience. Focus there. That's the key. Long victories require long commitment. A marathon is not won by sprinting the first mile. It is won by maintaining strength when others become exhausted. Life works exactly the same way. The people who achieve extraordinary things are rarely those who begin with the greatest excitement. They are the people who preserve commitment long after excitement disappears. Excitement starts journeys. Commitment finishes them. That distinction matters. Because excitement is emotional. Commitment is intentional. Emotions rise and fall. Intentions remain. Many people confuse movement with progress. They constantly change goals, change routines, change careers, change strategies. They feel productive because they are always moving. But movement without direction creates exhaustion. Progress requires staying on the path long enough for your efforts to compound. That is why the long game demands focus. It demands restraint. It demands patience. Most importantly, it demands trust. Trust that today's unseen effort is building tomorrow's visible result. Trust that repetition matters. Trust that character compounds just like money. Trust that endurance creates opportunities impossible to predict. Trust the process. Repeat those words when doubt begins to whisper. When your business feels slow, trust the process. When your body changes more slowly than you hoped, trust the process. When learning feels frustrating, trust the process. When nobody notices your work, trust the process. Those moments define your future more than dramatic breakthroughs ever will. One day, you will look back and realize something remarkable. The years you once thought were painfully slow were actually moving you exactly where you needed to go. Every difficult season strengthened your discipline. Every delay increased your patience. Every unseen repetition prepared you for responsibilities you could not yet imagine. Nothing was wasted, because time always rewards endurance. Think in years, not days. Never forget that. The future belongs to those who can keep working without demanding immediate applause. Master the long game, and you master one of life's greatest advantages. Most people will stop before the harvest. You will still be planting. You now understand that extraordinary success belongs to those who think beyond today's emotions and tomorrow's results. But every long journey includes seasons when it seems that nothing is happening at all. Those invisible seasons are where the strongest people quietly separate themselves from everyone else. Chapter 6. Build strength. During invisible seasons. There will be seasons in your life when it feels as though nothing is happening. You wake up, you work, you practice, you improve, you sacrifice. Then you look around and wonder if any of it matters. The results are invisible. The recognition is absent. The progress feels painfully slow. This is the moment where most people give up. Not because they are incapable, because they mistake invisible progress for no progress. That mistake costs them years of potential. You have a choice. You can judge your life by what you can immediately see, or you can trust that the most important changes often begin beneath the surface. That's the key. Invisible work creates visible success. Repeat that until you believe it. Invisible work creates visible success. Modern culture celebrates the finished product, the championship trophy, the best-selling book, the successful company, the impressive physique, the standing ovation. People admire the visible outcome. Very few appreciate the invisible years that created it. That is because invisible work is rarely exciting. No cameras, no applause, no headlines, just quiet repetition, again, and again, and again. This is where character is built, not on the stage, behind it. Think about planting a seed. For weeks, perhaps even months, it appears that nothing is happening. You water the soil. You protect the ground. You wait. From the outside, it looks like wasted effort. But beneath the surface, roots are expanding. The foundation is growing stronger. The unseen work is preparing the visible growth. Nature understands patience. People often do not. Invisible work creates visible success. One of the most powerful examples comes from bamboo. Certain species of bamboo spend years developing an underground root system before they shoot upward. During those early years, someone who knows nothing about bamboo might conclude that the plant has failed. Nothing visible appears. No towering stalk. No dramatic growth. Yet beneath the soil, an extraordinary foundation is forming. Then, when the time is right, the bamboo grows with astonishing speed. People call it sudden growth. It is not sudden. It is delayed visibility. Your life often works the same way. You're building roots before anyone sees the tree. Never confuse invisible progress with failure. That's the key. Elite performers understand this principle. The Olympic athlete trains long before standing on the podium. Years of early mornings, countless repetitions, injuries, recovery, lonely practices, strict discipline. The audience watches a performance that lasts a few minutes. They never see the decade that made those minutes possible. The medal is visible. The preparation was invisible. The world celebrates the victory. The athlete remembers the sacrifice. Authors understand this as well. A reader may finish a book in a few days. The author may have spent years writing it. Early drafts, deleted chapters, endless revisions, moments of doubt, moments of frustration, entire mornings spent writing words that nobody would read. Then the book is published. Readers say, "What an incredible success." They rarely imagine the thousands of quiet hours hidden behind every page. Invisible work creates visible success. Business follows the same pattern. People notice the thriving company. They do not notice the years when the founder worked alone. Long nights, small profits, repeated failures, constant uncertainty. There were no interviews, no magazine covers, no awards, only persistence, only endurance, only one decision repeated every day. Keep going. When success finally arrives, the world assumes it happened quickly. It almost never does. The visible result simply catches up with the invisible effort. That's why patience matters. Success often appears sudden, but is years in the making. Remember that whenever you begin comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel, you're comparing your behind-the-scenes work to someone else's finished chapter. That comparison is unfair. Every successful person has invisible seasons. Some simply hide them better than others. You have a choice. You can become discouraged because nobody notices your effort. Or you can become the kind of person who no longer depends on being noticed. That shift changes everything. It moves your motivation from outside yourself to inside yourself. And internal motivation lasts much longer than external applause. It's not about recognition. It's about discipline. It's not about attention. It's about becoming. That's the key. Ask yourself an important question. If nobody ever applauded your effort, would you still continue? If nobody praised your discipline, would you still wake up early? If nobody admired your honesty, would you still tell the truth? If nobody congratulated your consistency, would you still keep your promises? Your answers reveal your character. Because true discipline performs even when the audience disappears. The strongest foundations are built in silence. A skyscraper cannot rise unless its foundation goes deep. Interestingly, nobody admires the foundation. People admire the building. Yet without the hidden structure, the visible structure collapses. The same principle applies to your life. Your habits are your foundation. Your daily choices are your foundation. Your integrity is your foundation. No one may notice them today. Everyone will notice their results tomorrow. Invisible work creates visible success. There will be mornings when you question your progress, days when improvement feels impossible to measure, weeks when nothing exciting happens, months where growth appears completely absent. Stay faithful anyway, because growth is often taking place where your eyes cannot see it. The mind develops before confidence appears. Character develops before opportunity arrives. Wisdom develops before leadership is required. Life prepares you before life promotes you. Many people want promotion without preparation, responsibility without discipline, recognition without sacrifice, influence without character. Those shortcuts rarely last. Real success demands invisible preparation. That preparation cannot be skipped. Time tests every foundation. Weak foundations eventually crack. Strong foundations quietly support extraordinary lives. Keep building. Repeat those words. Keep building. Not because someone is watching, because you know who you are becoming. Identity is strengthened during invisible seasons. Anyone can feel disciplined after receiving praise. Real discipline appears when praise disappears. Anyone can work enthusiastically after immediate success. Real endurance appears after repeated disappointment. Anyone can remain positive when progress is obvious. Real resilience appears when progress is invisible. That is where greatness is quietly created. Do not become addicted to recognition. Recognition is unpredictable. Some of your best work may receive little attention. Some ordinary work may receive tremendous praise. If your motivation depends on applause, your consistency will always fluctuate. Instead, anchor your identity somewhere deeper. Become proud of keeping your standards. Become proud of honoring your commitments. Become proud of showing up when no one expects you to. Those victories belong entirely to you, and they build something applause never can. Self-respect. Self-respect grows every time you keep a promise to yourself. Nobody can give it to you. Nobody can take it away. It is earned. One invisible decision at a time. Years from now, people may look at your life and say, "You were lucky." Smile. Because you will remember the mornings they never saw, the evenings they never noticed, the sacrifices they never understood, the lonely hours, the difficult choices, the repeated failures, the invisible seasons. Luck had very little to do with it. Invisible work creates visible success. Never forget that. Keep building. When nothing seems to be changing, keep building. When your effort goes unnoticed, keep building. When doubt whispers that it is taking too long, keep building. Every brick matters. Every repetition matters. Every disciplined day strengthens a future that has not yet revealed itself. The invisible season is not delaying your success. It is creating it. Keep building. You have learned that greatness is quietly constructed long before the world notices. But invisible work demands another kind of discipline, the ability to stop arguing with yourself every single day and simply do what must be done. That is the lesson of the next chapter. Chapter 7. Stop negotiating with yourself. One of the biggest battles you will ever fight is not against another person. It is not against your competitors. It is not against difficult circumstances. It is against the voice inside your own mind that constantly asks for exceptions. Maybe tomorrow. Just this once. I don't feel like it. I'll start again on Monday. I deserve a break. Those words sound harmless. They are not. Every excuse weakens discipline. Every negotiation delays action. Every delay teaches your mind that your promises are optional. That is how great ambitions quietly disappear. Not through dramatic failure, through thousands of tiny compromises. You have a choice. You can become someone who negotiates with every difficult decision, or you can become someone whose word is final. That's the key. The answer is already yes. Repeat those words. The answer is already yes. If you decided to exercise today, the answer is already yes. If you promised to study, the answer is already yes. If you committed to building your business, the answer is already yes. There is nothing left to debate. The decision has already been made. Now, all that remains is execution. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy arguing with themselves. They hold meetings inside their own minds. They debate. They bargain. They justify. They search for reasons to postpone what they already know must be done. By the time the debate ends, the opportunity has often disappeared. Discipline avoids this entirely. Discipline removes unnecessary conversations. You don't need their permission. You don't even need your own permission once the commitment has been made. You simply act. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you negotiate every night? Do you ask yourself whether you feel inspired? Do you wait for motivation? Of course not. You do it because it has become automatic. It is no longer a decision. It is a standard. Imagine applying that same principle to every important area of your life. Exercise becomes a standard. Reading becomes a standard. Saving money becomes a standard. Practicing your craft becomes a standard. Keeping your promises becomes a standard. When standards replace negotiations, life becomes dramatically simpler. The answer is already yes. Successful people often appear mentally stronger than everyone else. In reality, many of them simply make fewer decisions. They reduce choice. They create routines. They remove unnecessary options. Why? Because every decision consumes mental energy. Every internal debate creates friction. Every moment of hesitation increases the chance of quitting. Habits eliminate friction. That is their hidden power. A habit says, "This is simply what I do." There is no discussion, no emotional vote, no daily argument. Action becomes automatic. That's the key. Consider the morning routine of someone with strong discipline. The alarm rings. They stand up. They make the bed. They exercise. They begin working. Notice what is missing. There is no lengthy conversation, no negotiation, no waiting for the perfect mood. The routine carries them forward before emotions have a chance to interfere. Now compare that with someone ruled by feelings. The alarm rings. 5 more minutes. Then 10. Then 20. Should I work out today? Maybe after work. Actually, tomorrow might be better. By the time the conversation ends, the opportunity is gone. Nothing changed except one thing. The internal negotiation won. Every negotiation weakens future decisions. The mind remembers. Each time you break a promise to yourself, your brain quietly records the event. It begins to question your future commitments. You probably won't do it anyway. confidence slowly disappears. Not because you lack ability, because you stopped trusting yourself. Self-confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself. Self-doubt is built by breaking them. That truth is impossible to escape. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. The answer is already yes. Many people wait until they feel ready. But readiness is often created through action. The writer becomes ready by writing. The runner becomes ready by running. The leader becomes ready by leading. The entrepreneur becomes ready by building. Action creates clarity. Debate creates confusion. Think about a soldier during training. When the command is given, there is no committee meeting. No discussion. No emotional analysis. The response is immediate. Training exists to eliminate hesitation. Life rewards the same principle. The faster you execute meaningful decisions, the stronger your discipline becomes. This does not mean acting carelessly. It means refusing to repeatedly reconsider commitments that were already wisely made. Your future should not be decided by today's temporary emotion. Feelings change. Standards remain. That's the key. Action must replace debate. There is tremendous freedom in this idea. Imagine waking up each morning without asking whether you feel like honoring your commitments. Imagine simply doing them. No drama, no excuses, no emotional roller coaster. Just quiet consistency. That is how extraordinary lives are built. Not through occasional heroic effort. Through ordinary decisions that are no longer decisions. They become identity. You have a choice. When discomfort appears, you can negotiate. Or you can move. When fear appears, you can negotiate. Or you can move. When boredom appears, you can negotiate. Or you can move. Movement weakens excuses. Excuses grow stronger when you stand still. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. The first step is difficult. The second is easier. The third becomes natural. Keep moving. Do not give your excuses time to organize themselves. One useful question can transform your daily life. Ask yourself, what would the disciplined version of me do right now? Then do exactly that. Do not improve it. Do not delay it. Do not analyze it. Execute it. Immediately. Each immediate action strengthens your identity. Each delay strengthens hesitation. Your identity is always being shaped. Choose carefully. Consistency grows through non-negotiable standards. A standard is different from a goal. A goal says, I hope this happens. A standard says, this is how I live. Goals inspire. Standards govern. Goals have finish lines. Standards become permanent. When discipline becomes a standard, your behavior changes. You stop asking whether reading is necessary. Readers read. You stop asking whether training is important. Athletes train. You stop asking whether honesty is worth it. People of character tell the truth. Identity removes unnecessary decisions. This is who I am. Not because life is easy, because I have decided. That sentence carries enormous power. There will always be reasons to delay. Always. There will always be unexpected problems, unexpected fatigue, unexpected distractions, unexpected opportunities to quit. If your standards change every time circumstances become inconvenient, they were never standards. They were preferences. Preferences disappear under pressure. Standards survive it. Do what you said. Repeat those words. Do what you said. Not because someone is watching. Because your future depends on whether you trust yourself. Trust is earned. Especially self-trust. Every promise you keep becomes evidence. Evidence that you are dependable. Evidence that your word matters. evidence that your character is becoming stronger. Eventually, something remarkable happens. Your mind stops questioning your commitments. It knows the answer. Because you have answered it the same way hundreds of times before. The answer is already yes. That is freedom. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from hesitation. Freedom from emotional inconsistency. Freedom to become the person you promised yourself you would become. Do what you said. Always remember this. The strongest people are not those with the least resistance. They are those who waste the least energy arguing with resistance. They simply move. Again, and again, and again. You have learned to silence the endless negotiations that steal your discipline. Now it is time to discover something even more powerful. Your limits are rarely where you think they are. The next chapter will show you that your greatest strength often appears only after you believe you have nothing left to give. Chapter 8. Carry more than you think you can. Most people have no idea how strong they really are. Not because they lack strength, because life has never required them to discover it. Human beings almost always underestimate their own capacity. We assume our limits are fixed. We believe that when something feels difficult, we must be close to breaking. But feelings are often poor judges of potential. The mind says, "I can't." The body says, "I still can." Experience proves it. Again and again. You have a choice. You can believe the first voice that tells you to stop, or you can take one more step and discover that your limits were farther away than you imagined. That's the key. You're stronger than you believe. Repeat those words. You're stronger than you believe. Think back to a moment when life demanded more from you than you thought you could give. Perhaps you worked through exhaustion because your family depended on you. Perhaps you cared for someone who was sick. Perhaps you survived financial hardship. Perhaps you endured heartbreak while continuing to fulfill your responsibilities. At the beginning, you probably believed you could never handle that burden. Yet somehow you did. Not perfectly, not easily, but you carried it. That experience revealed something important. Your capacity was greater than your confidence. Many people confuse comfort with capability. They assume that because something feels heavy, it must be impossible. But strength is not measured by how light life feels. Strength is measured by what you continue carrying despite the weight. That's the difference. You are stronger than you believe. One of life's greatest lessons is this. Strength expands whenever responsibility expands. When life asks more of you, you begin doing more than you ever thought possible. Not because you suddenly become superhuman, because necessity awakens potential. Comfort rarely demands your best. Responsibility almost always does. It's not about talent. It's about responsibility. Imagine a parent holding a newborn child for the first time. There is no instruction manual that fully prepares them. No course can remove every fear. No amount of planning creates perfect readiness. Yet millions of ordinary people become extraordinary parents. How? Because responsibility changes them. The child depends on them. Suddenly, they become more patient, more disciplined, more resilient, more courageous. The responsibility they accepted forced hidden qualities to emerge. They did not wait until they felt completely prepared. They grew because preparation continued after commitment. That's the key. Leaders experience the same transformation. Many people imagine that great leaders always begin with extraordinary confidence. History tells a different story. Many stepped into leadership uncertain of themselves. They questioned their abilities. They feared making mistakes. But they accepted responsibility anyway. Over time, responsibility shaped them. Every difficult decision strengthened judgment. Every setback increased wisdom. Every challenge expanded confidence. Leadership was not discovered before the responsibility. It was built because of the responsibility. Pressure revealed what already existed inside them. Pressure does that. Pressure does not always create character. More often, it reveals character. When pressure arrives, excuses disappear. Priorities become clear. Distractions lose their importance. You begin focusing on what truly matters. Pressure strips away illusions. It exposes both strengths and weaknesses. That is why difficult seasons often become defining seasons. They show you who you really are. You are stronger than you believe. Think about soldiers in demanding situations. During training, they repeatedly face conditions they once believed impossible. Heavy equipment, long marches, little sleep, constant pressure. At first, the demands seem unbearable. Then something remarkable happens. Their bodies adapt. Their minds adapt. Their expectations change. What once seemed impossible becomes routine. The weight did not become lighter. They became stronger. That is the principle you must remember. Capacity increases under load. The same truth appears in caregivers. Someone suddenly becomes responsible for an aging parent, or a child with special needs, or a family member facing illness. They do not wake up one morning already possessing unlimited patience. They develop it. One difficult day at a time. One challenge at a time. One sacrifice at a time. Love gives them a reason. Responsibility gives them strength. The burden reveals abilities they never knew existed. Entrepreneurs experience this transformation constantly. The first customer teaches one lesson. The first employee teaches another. The first financial crisis teaches another. Every new level of responsibility demands a stronger version of the person leading it. Those who accept the challenge continue growing. Those who avoid responsibility often stop growing. Responsibility creates growth. Repeat that. Responsibility creates growth. Modern culture often teaches people to seek less responsibility. Less pressure. Less difficulty. Less commitment. But responsibility gives life meaning. It demands maturity. It requires discipline. It develops resilience. The heavier the meaningful responsibility, the stronger the person often becomes. This does not mean carrying unnecessary burdens. It means refusing to run from the responsibilities that belong to you. You have a choice. When life offers you greater responsibility, you can retreat. Or you can step forward. Fear will usually accompany that decision. Accept it. Growth and fear often arrive together. Many people wait until they feel completely prepared before accepting a challenge. Unfortunately, that day rarely arrives. Confidence usually follows commitment, not the other way around. The entrepreneur starts the business before knowing every answer. The teacher enters the classroom before mastering every situation. The leader makes decisions before eliminating every uncertainty. The parent raises a child without complete certainty. Life does not reward perfect preparation. Life rewards courageous participation. That's the key. Accept challenges before you feel ready. This principle has transformed countless lives. Every meaningful opportunity will feel larger than your current abilities. That is precisely why it helps you grow. If every challenge feels comfortable, you're probably choosing challenges that are too small. Growth requires stretching. Stretching always feels uncomfortable. Remember how your muscles respond during strength training. If the weight never increases, the muscles stop adapting. The same thing happens to your character. If responsibility never increases, resilience eventually stops growing. Capacity increases under load. That sentence applies to your mind, your emotions, your discipline, your leadership, your confidence. The load is not your enemy. The load is your trainer. Every difficult responsibility asks the same question. Will you become smaller than the burden or larger? That decision belongs to you. Carry the weight. There is another remarkable truth about carrying responsibility. The longer you carry it, the lighter it begins to feel. Not because the burden changes, because you change. Think about the first day at a demanding job. Everything feels overwhelming. Months later, those same responsibilities seem ordinary. Think about learning to manage finances, raise children, lead teams, speak publicly, run a company. Each responsibility once seemed intimidating. Today, it may simply be part of your routine. That is adaptation. That is growth. That is evidence that capacity increases under load. You are stronger than you believe. Never allow temporary discomfort to convince you that permanent inability exists. Many of the limits you accept today are simply limits you have never challenged. Push them carefully. Push them consistently. Push them with wisdom. You will often discover that there was much more inside you than you imagined. Carry the weight. Not because carrying heavy things is enjoyable, because carrying meaningful responsibility builds meaningful lives. The strongest people are rarely those with the easiest circumstances. They are those who accepted difficult responsibilities and refused to abandon them. One day, people may admire your resilience. They may wonder how you remain calm while others panic, how you continue while others quit, how you carry burdens that seem impossible. The answer will be simple. You accepted the weight. You kept carrying it. And little by little, the weight transformed you into someone capable of carrying even more. Carry the weight. Always remember those words. Every responsibility you embrace becomes another opportunity to discover strength you did not know you possessed. You have learned that your capacity grows every time you accept greater responsibility instead of avoiding it. But true endurance is tested when life knocks you down again and again. The final measure of strength is not how much weight you can carry. It is whether you refuse to stay on the ground after being hit. Chapter 9. Refuse to break life will test you, not once, not twice, again and again. There will be seasons when nothing goes according to plan. Doors will close. People will leave. Dreams will collapse. Plans you spent years building may disappear in a single moment. You cannot control whether those moments arrive, but you can control what they create inside you. That is where emotional resilience begins. Not in avoiding hardship, but in refusing to become permanently defeated by it. You have a choice. You can allow every setback to become your identity, or you can allow every setback to become another layer of your strength. That's the key. I may bend. I will not break. Repeat those words. I may bend. I will not break. Strength is often misunderstood. Many people imagine mentally strong individuals never struggle. They never doubt. They never cry. They never feel discouraged. Nothing could be further from the truth. Strong people feel pain. They experience fear. They become exhausted. They question themselves. The difference is not that they avoid these emotions. The difference is that they refuse to surrender to them. They understand an important truth. Feeling overwhelmed is temporary. Giving up is a decision. Those are not the same thing. A tree during a powerful storm offers a valuable lesson. The strongest trees are rarely the most rigid. They bend. Their branches move with the wind. They adapt. Because they bend, they survive. Trees that refuse to move often snap. Human beings are remarkably similar. Resilience is not rigid perfection. It is flexible persistence. It is the willingness to adjust without abandoning your purpose. It is accepting that life will require changes while refusing to abandon your values. I may bend. I will not break. That sentence contains enormous power. Think about how children learn to walk. They fall hundreds of times. Imagine if a child decided after the 10th fall that walking simply was not meant for them. No one would ever learn. Children succeed because falling is expected. Adults often expect life to be different. They experience one failure, one rejection, one disappointment. Then they begin questioning their entire future. Why? Because they mistakenly believe failure is evidence of inability. It is not. Failure is evidence that you're trying something difficult. That's the key. One of the greatest shifts you can make is to stop asking, "How can I avoid failure?" Instead, ask, "How quickly can I recover?" That question changes everything. Failure is unavoidable. Recovery is a choice. Recovery is a skill. Recovery is what separates those who continue from those who disappear. The strongest athletes lose competitions. The strongest businesses experience setbacks. The strongest leaders make mistakes. The strongest relationships encounter conflict. Nobody escapes difficulty. The difference is recovery, not perfection. Recovery. Get back up. Repeat those words. Get back up. After every disappointment. Get back up. After every rejection. Get back up. After every mistake. Get back up. Those 4 words have built more successful lives than extraordinary talent ever could. There is something remarkable about the human mind. Every time you survive something you once believed impossible, your confidence quietly grows. Not because life becomes easier, because you now possess evidence. Evidence that you can endure. Evidence that you can recover. Evidence that difficult seasons eventually end. Self-confidence is built from remembered victories over adversity. Think back to challenges you once believed would destroy you. Perhaps you thought you would never recover from a painful loss. Yet here you are. Perhaps you believed financial hardship would define your future. Yet you continued. Perhaps rejection convinced you everything was over. Yet another opportunity appeared. Every recovery became proof that you were more resilient than your fear suggested. You are living evidence of your own resilience. Never forget that. Adaptation is the true definition of toughness. Many people believe toughness means refusing to change. Real toughness is much wiser. It asks, what must I change so I can continue? A business adapts when markets change. An athlete adapts after injury. A leader adapts during crisis. A family adapts when circumstances shift. The mission remains. The method evolves. Rigid people often break. Adaptable people endure. It's not about stubbornness. It's about resilience. That's the key. Nature teaches this lesson beautifully. Water appears soft, gentle, flexible. Yet over time, water shapes mountains, not through force, through persistence. It adapts to every obstacle, flows around every barrier, continues moving forward. Eventually, even stone changes, become like water, not weak, persistent, not rigid, resilient, not easily stopped. Imagine a blacksmith forging steel. The metal enters the fire. Then the hammer strikes. Again, again, again. The process looks destructive, but every strike strengthens the steel, without pressure, without heat, without resistance. There is no transformation. Your difficult seasons often function the same way. They are shaping qualities that comfort never could. Patience, humility, wisdom, discipline, courage. These qualities are forged, not purchased. The fire is painful. The outcome is priceless. Get back up. There will be mornings when getting back up feels impossible. Do it anyway. There will be evenings when doubt whispers louder than hope. Stand anyway. There will be days when progress seems completely absent. Continue anyway. Endurance is rarely dramatic. Most often, it looks like ordinary people making extraordinary decisions to continue. One more hour. One more day. One more attempt. Those moments become defining moments. Not because the world notices them, because you do. Every recovery changes how you see yourself. The first recovery teaches survival. The second teaches confidence. The third teaches courage. Eventually, you stop fearing setbacks, not because setbacks disappear, because you know you can survive them. That realization changes your relationship with adversity forever. You no longer panic when life becomes difficult. You prepare. You adjust. You respond. You move. That is emotional resilience. Build faith in yourself instead of perfect circumstances. This is one of the most important lessons in this entire audiobook. Most people place their confidence in conditions. They believe they will succeed if everything goes according to plan. If the economy improves, if people support them, if opportunities appear, if circumstances become easier. Those conditions rarely remain stable. If your confidence depends on perfect circumstances, your confidence will always be fragile. Build confidence somewhere stronger. Build confidence in your ability to adapt. Trust your discipline. Trust your character. Trust your persistence. Trust the person you have become. Because even if circumstances change, you remain. You have a choice. Trust the weather. Or trust the sailor. Trust the obstacle. Or trust your ability to climb it. Trust the storm. Or trust the strength you have built through every previous storm. Choose wisely. The world changes constantly. Character endures. Every comeback strengthens future confidence. Remember that. Your next challenge becomes less frightening because you remember surviving the last one. Your next setback becomes less overwhelming because you have recovered before. Each comeback becomes another piece of evidence that you are not easily defeated. Confidence built this way cannot be borrowed. It cannot be purchased. It must be earned. One recovery at a time. Get back up. Again. And again. Until getting back up becomes part of your identity. One day, people will ask how you remain so calm during difficult seasons. How you continue when others lose hope. How you keep moving after repeated disappointment. The answer will not be talent. It will not be luck. It will be this. You decided long ago that breaking was never an option. You may bend. You may struggle. You may pause. But you will not stay down. I may bend. I will not break. Carry those words with you into every future challenge. Because resilience is not measured by how many times life knocks you down. It is measured by how many times you rise again. Get back up. Always. You have learned that true strength is not avoiding the storm, but refusing to let the storm define you. Now, there is only one lesson left. It is time to unite every principle you have learned into a single identity. Becoming the person that hardship can no longer defeat. Chapter 10. Become the person who endures. You have reached the final chapter. But this is not the end. It is the beginning of a different way of living. Everything you have heard throughout this audiobook points toward one transformation. Not a new habit, not another productivity system, not temporary motivation, an entirely new identity. Because lasting change never begins with what you do. It begins with who you decide to become. That is the lesson that unites every chapter. You do not simply practice endurance. You become a person who endures. That's the key. Endurance is who I am. Repeat those words. Endurance is who I am. From the beginning of this journey, you learned that comfort is not the goal. Strength is. You learned to stop escaping discomfort, to stay longer than everyone else, to let pain become your teacher instead of your enemy, to become comfortable being uncomfortable, to master the long game, to continue building during invisible seasons, to stop negotiating with yourself, to carry more responsibility than you thought possible, to refuse to break after repeated setbacks. Each lesson was important, but together they create something much more powerful. They create identity. Identity changes everything. When endurance becomes your identity, difficult decisions become simpler. You no longer ask, "Should I keep going?" You already know the answer. You keep going because that is who you are. You no longer ask whether discipline is worth the effort. Discipline becomes part of your character. You no longer ask whether hardship is fair. You expect hardship. You prepare for it. You grow through it. That is the difference between people who occasionally succeed and people who consistently succeed. Successful people no longer expect life to be easy. They expect life to demand something from them. And because they expect it, they are not surprised when difficulty arrives. They are ready. You have a choice. You can continue wishing for an easier life, or you can become a stronger person. History has always rewarded the second choice. Endurance is who I am. There is tremendous freedom in accepting that life will always include difficulty. When you stop expecting comfort, disappointment loses its power. When obstacles appear, you no longer think something has gone wrong. You understand something important. This is part of the process. Resistance is not the exception. Resistance is the path. Every mountain has a climb. Every ocean has storms. Every meaningful dream demands sacrifice. Once you stop fighting that reality, you begin working with it. Your energy shifts. Instead of complaining, you prepare. Instead of blaming, you improve. Instead of quitting, you continue. That mindset quietly separates extraordinary people from everyone else. Most people believe greatness is created through dramatic moments. One brilliant idea. One perfect opportunity. One lucky break. Real greatness rarely looks that exciting. It is built through thousands of ordinary moments. Thousands of mornings when someone chose discipline instead of comfort. Thousands of evenings when someone honored their commitment instead of making excuses. Thousands of decisions that nobody applauded. Those moments appear insignificant. They are not. They are bricks. Every difficult decision becomes another brick. Every promise kept becomes another brick. Every setback survived becomes another brick. Every uncomfortable conversation becomes another brick. Every hour spent practicing becomes another brick. Brick by brick. Day by day. Year by year. Eventually, you stand on a foundation so strong that temporary storms can no longer destroy it. That foundation is character. Character cannot be borrowed. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be inherited. It must be built. That's the key. Many people search for secret strategies. They want shortcuts. They want easier methods. They want guaranteed results. But there has never been a shortcut to becoming someone dependable. There has never been a shortcut to courage. There has never been a shortcut to resilience. There has never been a shortcut to endurance. The path has always been the same. One difficult decision, followed by another, then another, until the difficult decision becomes the natural decision. That is how identity changes. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, one choice at a time. Success belongs to those who continue when continuing no longer feels exciting. That sentence deserves to stay with you. Excitement fades. Motivation rises and falls. Emotion changes every day. Identity remains. The person who depends on motivation eventually stops. The person who depends on identity continues. Because identity does not ask how it feels. Identity asks who you are. If endurance is who you are, then persistence is no longer optional. It becomes inevitable. Imagine two builders constructing houses. The first builder works only on sunny days. Whenever rain appears, the work stops. Whenever fatigue appears, the work stops. Whenever excitement disappears, the work stops. Years later, the house remains unfinished. The second builder also experiences rain, also experiences fatigue, also experiences discouragement. But the work continues. One brick today, another tomorrow, another next week. Eventually, there is a completed house, not because the weather was better, because the commitment was stronger. Life works exactly the same way. Keep placing the next brick. You don't need their permission. You do not need permission to become extraordinary. You do not need permission to outwork your previous self. You do not need permission to recover after failure. You do not need permission to continue after everyone else has stopped believing. The only approval that matters is the one you earn every time you keep your word to yourself. That is self-respect. That is confidence. That is freedom. One of the greatest gifts endurance gives you is peace. Not because problems disappear, but because panic disappears. You stop fearing difficult seasons. You have survived too many of them already. You stop fearing rejection. You know it is temporary. You stop fearing failure. You know it contains lessons. You stop fearing hard work. You know it produces strength. The very things that once intimidated you become familiar companions. That is transformation. You become the calm person in chaotic situations, the steady person during uncertainty, the dependable person when others become inconsistent. People begin trusting you because you have learned to trust yourself. That trust is priceless. Never forget the central philosophy of this audiobook. Every challenge is another opportunity to become stronger. Every hardship is temporary. Every setback contains a lesson. Every sacrifice builds character. Every disciplined action compounds. Every promise kept strengthens identity. Every recovery increases confidence. Nothing meaningful is wasted. Nothing endured with purpose is meaningless. Endurance is the ultimate competitive advantage. Why? Because most people quit. That is the uncomfortable truth. They quit relationships that could have healed. They quit businesses that could have succeeded. They quit dreams that were beginning to grow. They quit learning just before understanding arrived. They quit improving just before transformation became visible. The world is filled with unfinished stories. Not because people lacked ability, because they lacked endurance. Do not become one of those stories. Become the exception. Become the person who stays. Become the person who adapts. Become the person who keeps building when nobody notices. Become the person who continues after motivation disappears. Become the person who refuses to negotiate with excuses. Become the person who carries responsibility instead of avoiding it. Become the person who rises after every fall. Become the person who endures. Endurance is who I am. Say it again. Endurance is who I am. One day, someone will ask you how you became so resilient, how you remained calm while others panicked, how you stayed disciplined while others drifted, how you kept moving while others surrendered. Your answer will not be complicated. You simply made one decision. Then you made it again, and again, and again, until it became who you were. That is how extraordinary lives are built. Not through one remarkable moment. Through thousands of ordinary moments lived with extraordinary consistency. Always remember this. Every challenge is another opportunity to become stronger. Every hardship is temporary. Endurance is the ultimate competitive advantage. And those who refuse to quit eventually become impossible to stop. Carry these lessons into every season of your life. When life becomes difficult, do not ask whether you can survive it. Remember who you have become. Remember every challenge you have already endured. Remember every promise you have already kept. Remember every time you stood back up, then take one more step. Because the world does not belong to the fastest. It does not belong to the most talented. It does not even belong to the smartest. In the end, it belongs to those who endure. Endurance is who I am. And from this day forward, let those words become more than a sentence. Let them become your identity. Everything you've heard comes down to one truth. Life does not reward the person who feels the strongest. It rewards the person who stays the longest. Endure one more difficult conversation. Endure one more early morning. Endure one more rejection. Endure one more failure. Endure one more lonely season. Every time you refuse to quit, you separate yourself from the millions who surrender too soon. That is how confidence is built. That is how character is forged. That is how extraordinary lives are created. Remember these words. Comfort is temporary. Endurance is permanent. So starting today, stop asking whether life is fair. Stop asking whether it's easy. Ask only one question. Can I endure one more step? If the answer is yes, then keep moving. And tomorrow, answer yes again. If this audiobook challenged the way you think, carry these lessons into your life, return to them often, and prove through your actions that you can endure more than others.